Hello, welcome to In Conservation, the podcast of the Wildlife Trust for Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Northamptonshire. I'm Sophie Baker, editor of our members magazine Local Wildlife and host of the podcast. In today's episode, we're exploring a car park. I know, that doesn't sound very wildlifey, but my colleague Iain Webb is here to prove us wrong. We spent some time walking around Madingley Park and Ride in Cambridge, and you might be surprised at what we discovered, and the sorts of things that you could discover at a car park near you too. So yeah, here we are in Madingley Park and Ride.
Indeed.
Car park extraordinaire.
It's one of the best, I'd say.
Yeah, one of the best. Lots of cars, I can see.
As you'd imagine.
Glinting in the sunshine. Quite a nice day.
Glorious day. A strange kind of, I think we're getting complacent with early September being still summery.
Yes.
And it's not. There's the chill in the air this morning and things are warming up, but it is that nice hint of autumn well on its way.
Yes, and the slight yellow tinge to the trees now, starting to turn, which is always nice, I think.
Exciting.
And we're here to see what we can find, what wildlife we can find.
Indeed. Who knows what we can see or find. Good morning, I am Iain Webb, working for the Cambridgeshire Wildlife Trust as a Conservation Engagement Officer.
They do this sort of thing all the time.
Anybody near, I'll chat to about wildlife, because it's fantastic. It is such a an amazing thing. We are nature. People do connect with nature. I think various parts of my job that I love, obviously being out in nature is great, but showing people how fantastic nature is. And one of the things I do is bat punt safaris. I had one at the weekend, and the bit that I absolutely love, it's great seeing the bats, fantastic seeing the bats and being on a beautiful part of the river in Cambridge, but it's when the first couple of bats come out, fly over the punt, and everybody goes, "Ah, look at the bat," and they point, and it's kind of, yes, it's that connecting with how fantastic bats are. That's what I really love. So when I can get people to love nature as much as I do, I've done my job, so to speak.
Absolutely. And you don't have to look far, and that's what we're here to prove today. You know, you don't have to. Bat punt safaris are fantastic, and I highly recommend them. I've been on many of them myself, and they never get boring. They're amazing. But you don't have to shell out on a bat punt safari. You don't have to even spend that much time. You know,
car park safaris.
Car park safari. I mean, that's what we're on today, really, isn't it? It's you know, you just have to take that bit of time.
Robin, sorry, ticking.
And look a little bit closely, and you know, you are actually surrounded by.
I do a regular walk at the Sanger Centre down in South Cambridgeshire. They have a nature reserve adjacent to their campus, and I do monthly walks at lunchtime, but in the summer I do weekly ones. And you get some quite cerebral people come along. And there was one gentleman who was into his walking, and he sort of he was quite amazed when I was showing the group all these different species of plant and insects and stuff. And he sort of said, "There is so much wildlife in these cubic meters, there's several cubic meters around me. I didn't realise." And it's kind of, yes, that's what we want people to realise is, nature is, give it the chance, and it is everywhere. And even if you don't give it a chance, it's still everywhere. And that's the thing that is the resilience of nature. It doesn't give up.
No, it doesn't give up.
You keep chopping down that bramble bush in your garden, and it'll just keep sprouting. Even though you don't want it to sprout, it'll just keep going. And that's it's almost inspiring in some respect, in a weird kind of way, even though we are nature. We've sort of disengaged ourselves from it, unfortunately. But I should say, I know Madingley Park and Ride relatively well over the years. Come here looking for various things. So there's a pond at the back, which we'll look at in a bit. It's got great crested newts in. There's another little population just outside the site. There's some, because this is obviously only built about 25, 30 years ago, various features that were already present have been maintained in certain places. So a lot of the mature trees around the edge, a lot of live oaks at the front, and a nice oak there, and there's some elm trees and stuff like that. And so I came here with a volunteer team looking for hair streak butterflies in the summer. Purple hair streak on the oak and white letter hair streak on the elm. Haven't been here for about 10 years. And we found some. So we came back year on year to watch the hair streaks, white hair streaks and purple hair streaks, which is lovely.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I mean, you know, although it does have mature trees, and like you say, there are aspects of sort of wildlife been built into its creation. I would say a lot of car parks are probably, even if they're not deliberately so, you know, a lot of them will have trees in.
Yeah.
A lot of them will be built around existing trees.
Yeah.
They'll have green spaces, green where there's grass.
Yeah.
You know, and so looking for wildlife somewhere like this sounds unlikely, but actually, you know,
easy.
Yeah, wildlife is all around us. So let's see what we can see.
Okay, so where should we go first? Should we go? Let's just walk straight across here.
Yeah.
And go into the sort of the post-glacial part of the car park. So it's sort of, you know, starting from scratch in some respects. Obviously, this is, you know, used by cars. I'm sure there's some weed control going on, or, you know, that physical disturbance to the
yes.
to the, you know, lamppost. Look at the base of the lamppost, and we can see some mosses growing.
Oh yeah.
Some lichen, and this is some bristly ox tongue coming up.
Bristly ox tongue.
Bristly ox tongue.
What a great name for a plant. And
Yeah.
I bet that is a plant that most people don't know the name of, but they've seen
Oh yeah.
everywhere.
Oh yeah. It really likes disturbed clay soils. It's the bane of the reserves team on various sites. But you know, a natural part of, you know, disturbed ground and grass and ecosystems. There's various. The micromoth, I think the caterpillar lives in the flower head. You know, so every species has its value, has its place within ecosystems. Oh, there's a hairband.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. A nice natural pink sparkly hairband.
Exactly. I haven't seen one of those for a long time. They were quite sort of declining in numbers, but I think they're increasing now. Anyway, yeah. So it's I think one of the things with sites like this, you know, looking for wildlife in a car park. But I think it's the wonderful thing I find out with nature is it's always striving to find new habitats. And those species that we're seeing now are the early successional ones, the ones that can cope with a tiny little gap between some brickwork. There's a little bit of moisture, they start to grow and they start resetting the habitat.
They do. You can see around the edges of where those are growing is where soil has started to gather because it's been trapped by the leaves or the kind of existence of it. So although they're growing between the gaps, they're kind of creating a sort of very thin layer of soil which is starting to appear, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's kind of trapped by their presence.
Very exciting. We sort of dismiss that, you know, one dismisses them because they seem insignificant, but you know, as in a natural setting, they are vital to help kickstart ecosystems. You know, even these lichens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really important. I think one of the key things is to step out of being a human, because we are very much self-absorbed species, and look at everything around us that has been evolving for millions of years to do exactly what they need to do to sort of, it's almost like a weird kind of, there's a word, benign cooperation. It just sort of, it works.
Yeah.
Everything fits in.
Yeah.
And does, you know, processing the energy that's passing through the system. That's all it is. It's all about passing it through the system. And these species have evolved and find their niche, and some do, you know, expand enormously and do loads. Others just hang around at the edges, being rare but being important, and you know, adding to that complexity and diversity and resilience of these ecosystems. But anyway,
yeah,
at the base of a lamppost in a car park, we're seeing the start of the post car park ecosystem.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny because the longer we've been sitting here and I've been looking around, obviously the moss is the thing that kind of jumps out at you, the bristly ox tongue.
Yeah.
But there's also
little
tiny seedlings which are sprouting in the moss.
Yeah.
So obviously the moss is holding moisture enough for seeds to take hold and to start growing.
And there will be things in the moss as well when it's wet. There'll be rotifers, tardigrades, you know, multicellular tiny little things, and mites and springtails will start to move in because species, you know, need to find new habitats, so they're constantly moving around. And so there'll be things hopping around, flying around, being drifted in by the wind, landing here going, oh, phew, this is great, I'll live here. And feeding, and they find them to mate, or they, you know, through parthenogenesis, give birth to young, and that just starts that whole process. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
And all at the base of a lamppost.
All at the base of a lamppost. Should we let people know which one it is? So
I think we should, yeah.
Has it got a number? I'm sure it has got a number.
It probably has got a number. 115.
There we go.
Lamppost 115 at Madingley.
Oh no, and then it's got 114 on this side.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
because it's the two lights, 114 and 115. There you go.
Anyway, we'll put something on it so people know.
Yeah.
Let's head to the hedge.
Head to the hedge.
Head to the hedge heading. And obviously, coming into autumn now, the leaves are dropping off the trees. And that, drains are good. And that will add to the build-up of soil. You know, as the leaves get caught or just hang around in various places that don't get brushed away, then they'll break down, fungal and bacterial. There's a buzzard. Young buzzard.
Yes, I hear the whistling of a buzzard there. Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, so drains are always good, especially, not this one, because there's nothing growing in it, but because, you know, as drains, there's some grass growing, just where the sort of the plasticky tubey bit joins the brickwork. Any little gap where there's somewhere for roots to grab hold.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so not just by the side of the drain, but actually down underneath the grate.
Yeah. Well, that's if you walk through Cambridge, as I do a lot, and you look in drains, you'll see ferns growing, other sort of species, just finding somewhere suitable to grow.
Yeah.
And growing.
And undisturbed.
Undisturbed, yeah, definitely.
You know, but kind of like the side of a waterfall. You know,
indeed, very romantic sounding. Yes.
It is though for the plant. You know, as far as it knows, it's some rock. Next to a sort of regular water source.
Yeah, that's cool. Very good. And I should say, we can just sort of see the plants, but there will be other tiny little things that we can't see. As I mentioned, you know, the rotifers and the tardigrades. Oh, look, standing water, always nice. Probably not quite temporary, I imagine, but that's, you know, that in itself is a habitat. I'm sure there's diatoms and bacteria.
And you can see that because this is a place where there's regularly a puddle. There's actually a lot more soil here also, in between the gravel.
A little path of some invertebrate going along there.
Oh yeah, so like a little line drawn in the mud.
Like wiggly.
A wiggly line. I wonder what that was.
Ooh.
It stopped intriguingly with nothing at the end of it.
It's like that.
And it's split into two.
I know, so maybe they came back and went, there's one following another. Who knows?
Wow.
So yeah, you're right about, you know, the soil building up in this area, more so than elsewhere. And so there'll be, I'm sure there are detritivores, you know, larvae of flies in here. Their eggs have been laid, and as it's moist, they'll be feeding on all the rotting vegetation. Do you ever rummage?
I can see a spider.
You've seen a spider? Oh yeah.
Tiny little one under the leaf.
There it goes.
It's got quite a pale abdomen.
Abdomen. Yeah, you can say it just the once.
Quite a pale abdomen. Don't know what type it is. Very little.
Small one. Might be a juvenile. It's just sort of dispersed. Oh, there's an ant. Look, there's an ant.
Oh, an ant.
Ding, ding, ding.
A black ant?
Yeah, I think that's just Niger. I was going to rummage through the soil a bit to see if there's... Oh, what was that?
In.
Little fly disappeared off.
So we're literally just digging into the little bit of soil that's gathered at the edge of a puddle on the edge of a car park.
Yep. On a Thursday morning.
And it is amazing what you might find, actually.
And there's a little something. Okay. There's a little springtail or something just pootling around.
And what's a springtail?
It's invertebrate, feeds on decaying vegetation. There's about 230 species in Britain. And they are really, really valuable. They're breaking down dead vegetation into a form that other plants can use, other animals can use. It's sort of, you know, you've got a leaf here. That's not much use to anything really. If you chop it up into little bits and digest it a bit, it releases those nutrients within it, and also creates a medium for things to grow in. And it's just sort of recycling the nutrients that the tree absorbed through its roots and gained through the sunshine, CO2, to create this. And these springtails, woodlice, worms, all these sort of things, you haven't actually seen those. Break those down to make it available for this tree again. Oh, look, here we go. There's a dandelion seed, still with its little umbrella-y thing.
Oh yeah.
Landed on the collection of rotting vegetation, or, you know, detritus at the edge. Come back in a couple of months, mark the spot, after visiting lamppost 114, 115, and see if that seed has germinated. And it's the wonderful thing about nature is it's constantly moving. Obviously things move, some things move more than others,
Yeah.
but there is all that action going on, like.
Yeah.
It's never boring being outside because you never know what's going to flop out. When I was just turning up here on the bus, I saw a jay flying through the trees. That's a nice surprise to see. Hearing the buzzard is really nice. Obviously birds are those sort of things that can turn up anywhere and do. But invertebrates, flying invertebrates, but also anything really. We don't spend enough time outside looking at stuff.
Exactly.
Because if you do, you find lots more things. If you don't, you miss them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that intrigues me is, what are we missing now because we're looking at this little bit rather than going over there? We've got twigs have fallen out of the hornbeam, covered in lichen.
Yeah, absolutely covered, encrusted in lichen, almost. So it's sort of down here on the floor, underneath. And there's an old pallet here, which is rotting slowly into the landscape.
We could look underneath it.
And even that, which will probably have been treated wood, but eventually, it does give way, doesn't it?
It does indeed. It's recently moved. Oh, the other side's got loads. Oh, it's a woodlouse. Oh, spider, another spider.
That's the thing I love about spiders, and I know, they're a trigger for a lot of people. A lot of people are frightened of them, but really, spiders are everywhere.
Yeah.
If you move things around, you will come across spiders of every size.
They're an essential part of. We've got a harvestman spider there as well.
Oh wow!
Should we head in that direction?
Yes. Let's go.
A little fly. We'll head towards. So there's a lot of development going on around West Cambridge at the moment, which is done in a way to maintain what's already here, and there is a responsibility of developers to create habitat. What was a flower? Sorry, got distracted by flower.
Ooh, something in flower.
Something in flower. It's the bristly ox tongue. Very nice. So this is a sort of what would you call it? In a nice way.
It's a patch of land that's been put aside for the tree, really, isn't it? It's a break between the cars.
Yeah.
It's where everybody always wants to park because you're in the shade.
Yeah, that's true.
In my experience of using park and rides, everyone parks by the trees and hedges first.
Yeah. And so it's not very happy looking, is it really?
Not particularly.
A lot of disturbance, a lot of shade.
And there's no grass growing, which suggests it might be weed controlled to me.
Yeah. But there's dandelions.
But things cling on anyway.
Oh, and this is...
What's that?
It's a plant.
It's definitely a plant.
There's lots of... self-heal. I'll distract you with self-heal. And bramble.
Bramble and...
creeping thistle.
And more bristly ox tongue.
There's some other... Where we met by the where you pick up the bus, there's quite a few in flower, and I saw a common carder bumblebee come in and over. There's some ragwort growing over there.
So these things that grow through the likely weed control here, I don't know for sure that's happened.
I don't know.
There's no grass growing. So
no, it doesn't look very happy. It looks like it's been a combination of lack of light, and something has gone on. But anyway, there's still life here. That's the thing.
There is, and given the time of year, it's covered at the moment in the first leaves dropping for autumn. Really.
Yeah. All the acorns.
And as with anything, the closer you look, the more you see.
Yeah, it's a noppergall.
Aha! So that's
species of wasp.
A species of wasp that lays its eggs inside an acorn and makes the acorn grow in a very sort of knobbly fashion.
Yeah, it goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" and tries to protect itself from the incursion of the wasp egg.
Yeah, and then what that actually does is create protection for the wasp to grow inside.
Yeah, the larvae, and it feeds on the stuff that's on the gall. If we cut it open, well, if I cut it in half, I will kill the larvae. So, but they produce lots of galls from the oak tree just by here.
sometimes whole trees, all of their acorns seem to have knocker galls.
Yeah.
I find, but this one seems to be sort of half taken over.
Yeah.
There's still lots of healthy acorns on there too. Of course, oaks are
They must really hate being oaks. They get loads of galls, don't they?
They do, but they also host a huge range of
hundreds of species of invertebrates. Yeah.
And the older they get, I think I read somewhere recently that the magic number is 300 years. That once they hit 300 years old, that's where everything moves in, and they're like at the peak of their sort of usefulness for everything else.
See, so when you get to 50, that same sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping anyway.
Oh, it is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, sorry. With autumn, we get all the fruits as well. So we've got a nice hawthorn.
Yes, of course.
Covered in lovely crimson red haws,
and
there's a hoverfly.
Oh, hoverfly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what eats haws?
Things like eating them, really. So birds, obviously, the thrushes. Excuse me. You know, like the redwing and filfare. You'd see them. You know, other thrushes like missel thrushes, blackbirds, wood pigeons, and there's sort of shield bugs that feed on the fruits as well. You've got some damage here from something.
Oh yes, I've been nibbled.
And because the seed is quite large in a hawthorn, in the haw, there'll be things that just feed on the flesh as well. So the thrushes just eat them whole and then poop out the seeds, and they digest the fruits on the outside. But smaller birds will just nibble off the fruit if they're really desperately hungry. Galls are great in plants, but also leaf miners are great as well.
Oh yes,
so we'd like to see one. Is that one
things
here?
That leave interesting trails in the leaves.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There you go. Is that? Well, there's one.
Oh yes, and like a little patch in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's like an egg.
Yeah.
Crack an egg open, and you got it's rather than yellow, it's a sort of a browny red colour. And so the female, oh look at that one, that's a cool one. Going all the way around the edge of the leaf.
Oh yeah.
And then coming to and you can sometimes work out where the egg was laid. That's where the gallery that the larvae produces is narrowest, and as it gets bigger as it feeds, the gallery gets wider and wider.
Ah, yeah.
And then you'll find a point where the pupae is, and it pupates, and there's either waiting there the following spring, or it may well just emerge and overwinter in a different form, not necessarily in the leaf mine itself.
That's it. So even a browning leaf on a hawthorn at the edge of a car park.
Exactly. Full of life. And we're not encouraging more car parks, obviously.
No, that's
but it's just
and it's important to say that actually, that development is inevitable in some cases. And the work of the Wildlife Trust is to help mitigate that.
Oh, sorry, well spotted. A very galling day, isn't it?
It is a very galling day, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, because I am very much a layperson here.
All right.
Robin's pincushion.
Correct. Fantastic.
Amazing. So that's a kind of bristly growth on a species of rose.
Yeah. What was that?
And they look like quite old ones.
Yeah.
So when they first grow, they're kind of green with red tips. So there's a big bristly sort of balls of bristle. And again, it's where something's been laid, and it's making the rose grow in that way. Yeah, so it's not something that's kind of put onto the rose. It's actually the rose itself growing in that way.
Responding to that, going, it's trying to protect itself from it.
Yeah.
And there's varieties of insects do it, and bacteria and fungi all sort of induce this reaction in different plant species. Blue bottles and green bottles on.
Yes, there's some brambles here, and of course, much hated by the gardener in the sense that they do, they're quite vicious.
They're very good.
But
what they do.
Blackberries, classic at this time of year, and not just for us.
Bumblebee.
A bumblebee, yeah. The sun's come out, so now.
White-tailed bumblebee.
There she goes.
Enjoying the sunshine and the warmth.
Yeah, so all we're doing here is standing and looking at some vegetation. And actually, once you start looking, there's quite a lot of movement among the leaves, isn't there? So you don't even have to sort of delve or dig around, really.
No. where when the sun's out and it's warm, even on a, it might feel like quite a cold day, as long as the sun is out, there will be life warmed up, heated up. Dragonfly, is that darter? Yeah, female darter.
Wow, amazing. Just landed on a bramble leaf and soaking up the sun by the looks of it, basking.
You got all the right words. That's lovely.
Is that flesh fly?
Yes, it looks like it. Very nice. Very, very nice.
So flesh flies are quite beautiful looking actually when you look closely at them. They've got kind of black and white patterns on their thorax and their abdomen.
All very good words. Very good words.
And kind of reddish eyes.
Can I go back to you saying you're a layperson? We were all laypersons once.
Yes, yes.
So, you can, it's only through me getting into nature so much that I know what I know. It's not a special gift that I have.
No, that's it. And it is just looking and being interested.
Yeah,
you do pick things up. I think that's the thing, Oh, a frog hopper.
Frog hopper.
So it's kind of a strange shape. It's like a curled up leaf and it's oval around its back. And then it kind of goes to a point at its front, almost like the shape of a moth, actually, if you weren't looking closely, isn't it?
I was thinking it's like a wedge, a door wedge in some respects. It's sort of narrow, sort of dip down at the front, just to keep a fairy's door open.
Yeah,
couldn't you?
You could. A little fairy's door open with a frog hopper.
The goblin neighbour puffing on an acorn cup pipe.
Yeah.
I see it now.
Here's a little aside, just for you. One reason our 3 counties are a special place for wildlife. BCN Beauties.
Hello, my name is Gwen Hitchcock and I'm a Senior Monitoring and Research Officer at the Wildlife Trust for Beds, Camps and North Hants. So the Chilterns is a range of chalk escarpments or hills covering 660 square miles, and it stretches from Reading, heads north-east past London and up into South Bedfordshire. And it's defined by its chalk, which was originally formed at the bottom of a prehistoric sea, then lifted up 65 million years ago. And this nutrient-poor alkaline soil is home to many specially adapted wildflowers, which in turn supports many animals, including a number of rare and beautiful butterflies, including the appropriately named chalk hill blue. And many plant species rely on these thin chalk soils, and the Wildlife Trust, together with the Beds Flora Group and local volunteers, are monitoring a number of them to ensure their survival. This includes a number of fascinating orchids, including the rare man orchid, the flower of which looks like a small man in a striped cycling helmet. In Bedfordshire, this species is only found in or near our Tottenham Nature Reserve. And we've been building on some research that was done back in the 70s and monitored these populations for the past decade, learning more about where they occur and tailoring our management to support them, as well as many other important plants and animals of chalk grassland. From finding just 43 plants in 2012, we're now regularly recording over 400 each year, with the record being a whopping 645 plants in 2021. It's great to see that this rare species that we were once so worried about is thriving in our area.
Large white butterfly flower.
Wow, there you go. There's what I wasn't expecting to see today when I set off when there was a chill in the air. It was a butterfly, actually. I was thinking, what a shame, we're probably not going to see any butterflies. But a large white did just flutter by.
Well, I just released it a bit ago and it's just flying back to the box. I saw a red admiral this morning, actually. That was really nice. Yeah.
Yes. It's been...
Anyway, let's keep walking around the edge of the car park.
Yes, and the edges, you might not find anything on the concrete of the actual car park, although you might surprise yourself. It's always worth a look in the cracks.
I think it's always good to venture out every so often.
But every car park will have an edge.
Oh, yeah.
And most will have some form of tree or shrub.
I thought you were going to say something really prophetic then. Yeah. Every car park.
I wish I was prophetic. No.
Pathetic? No.
Pathetic, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
No. And it's just that, I think we were talking about earlier about seeing things coming in and sort of evolving, creating that habitat more, and really working at Trumping Meadows as I have for the past nearly 10 years, seeing that change from it was arable land 25 years ago to now being a species-rich grassland with a whole host of different invertebrates has been really wonderful. And knowing that, look, something's feeding on a flower. Oh, it's a little fly. There's a bristly oxtongue flower. That little fly going in, getting some nectar.
So there you go, the bristly oxtongue, a big feature, not just of this car park, but probably of most gardens in some form or another, unless you're completely on top of your weeding. But those flowers are really important, especially at this time of year. There's not a lot flowering at the moment.
No.
And so things that do need nectar.
Yeah. Some long-tailed tits going along the hedge line. Can you hear them?
Yeah, I can hear them. I can see them as well now.
Really? Oh,
darting through the hedgerow. Here they come. Always in a gang, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Once you've seen one, all of a sudden all the others will follow. That sort of darting flight into the bushes.
And at this time of year, there'll be other species of small bird joining them as well. Might get a chiff-chaff.
But yes, these hedgerows, I guess, because they've got the berries, the haws.
Yeah, and just that the complexity within it is really valuable because another large white. We've got some field forget-me-not.
Field forget-me-not. Look, growing right in the gap between the curb and the tarmac.
Yeah. What's that tiny little flower? That's a common mouse here. So the majority of this sward, which is kept short by rabbits, you can see there, droppings throughout. Majority of it is creeping cinquefoil. These sort of 5 leaves, sort of leaflet on the leaves. Oh.
Yeah, from a distance, this looks like a patch of grass, sort of like, as you say, close cut grass, and that is the rabbits. We haven't seen any rabbits yet, but we know they are here.
Yeah.
Certainly from all the droppings as well, which obviously helps with soil health, I would imagine as well. But yeah, once you look closely, as is usual actually with any patch of grass, I would say, unless it's highly managed.
Oh, look.
There's actually a huge variety of plant life there.
You see on this drop-in, tiny little fruiting bodies of some mould or something.
Yeah,
there it is.
Oh, there it is, and we've seen the buzzard that's been whistling.
Yeah.
Soaring overhead now.
As if on cue.
Wonder what it's saying.
I'm hungry, Mum. I'm hungry, Dad.
How can you tell it's a young one, out of interest?
Well, it's just how vocal it is, really.
Oh, right.
That's my assumption, not that I know that.
No, I mean, it's as valid as any other
method,
isn't it? Behavioural.
North Wales, and just hearing that sort of call at this time of year and thinking, not needing to build territory. Anyway, and then be moving through as well. Anyway, back to the dropping. If you look really close, can you see the tiny little white bits?
Yeah, tiny white bits almost look like glitter.
Yeah. Fairy glitter.
Fairy glitter, there's a theme.
Yeah, it is a theme, isn't there?
You can tell you have daughters.
Really? Is it my ponytail? That's fantastic, look at that.
Yeah, it is, it does. It really looks spangly, doesn't it?
Oh, there's a house martin over there.
Oh yes, flying over, darting around. Looks like it's maybe feeding.
Yeah, because there's a King's College in the middle of Cambridge. There's still some young in nests in one of the sort of the entrance building up there. It's quite lovely. House martins are just wow. Everything's fantastic. You really can't have a favourite. Oh look! There's a brown Argus.
A brown Argus butterfly. Oh
yeah.
Really?
Just crawl over to it. There we go.
I think
beautiful.
It's flicking its wings. It almost looked like it flew off then. I keep my shadow off it. That always scares me away, doesn't it?
Tiny little, looks like a female common blue. And it likes, its larvae, caterpillars, feed on geraniums, of which there are, I saw some back there, but there will be no doubt some cut-leaved or dove's foot cranespill within the sward here.
Yeah. Wow, that's really quite a small butterfly, isn't it? I don't think I'd appreciated how small they are actually. It's like not much bigger than a thumbnail, really.
That's true, yeah. They've got a distinctive way of flying, keeping very close to the ground and sort of juddering around rather than...
Yeah, very low to the ground.
Yeah. I just noticed another darter dragonfly on the curbstone over there, flying around.
Yeah, and just to say, we are still very close to the car park. I mean, this is literally the borderline. There's a curb stone and then the tarmac of the car park, and then just a patch of grass. That's all we're looking at, is a patch of grass next to the car park.
Brown Argus has come back round, and it's now actually flying over the car park itself.
There it goes. Settling on the tarmac, even.
Really?
On
Valuable habitat for Brown Argus.
On the leaf there.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, an egg.
A bird's egg.
It's a wood pigeon's egg that's been
predated. Yeah, it looks like it's been predated. There you go, just lying on the grass there. That looks quite fresh as well, actually. Would pigeons normally be breeding at this time of year?
Give it a go. Sorry, distracted by a red admiral just flying past. Sorry. Flying around that oak tree. Yeah, I saw some, actually. There was a hatched shell outside of our back door the other day, and I stepped on it, unfortunately. But yeah, I think they're opportunists. Whenever there's opportunity for breeding, they'll keep going. Ooh. It's lady's bedstraw. How lovely. That little bit still flowering.
Some lady's bedstraw.
Lady's bedstraw. And a daisy.
Very close growing to the ground,
yeah.
This lady's bedstraw. Is that because of the rabbits?
Yeah.
But still thriving, really. It's,
yeah,
like you say, there's some flowers there.
Yeah, and there's some creeping cinquefoil in flower here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the idea of flower-rich places have to be really long. In a natural setting, you would never have that much area of flower-rich meadows because there'll be wild herbivores in there.
Yeah.
Wild boars, and they're going to eat everything that tastes nice.
Yeah.
The flowers.
That's it. And the reason grass has evolved as it has is because it has, throughout its entire existence, been regularly cropped short. That's why we can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's, I remember my first term at doing a degree was about tillering in grasses, and you cut it. The more regularly you cut it, the greater the growth of the grass, because it thrives on it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because that's how it's always existed, because things have always eaten it.
And so it knows its place, and it relishes its place of being eaten.
Yes, and it's not just the grass; it's the other things that grow among it as well.
And so, and so it's that. Yes, it's great allowing grasses to grow long, but also let places be nibbled in the middle of the summer as well, because that has happened.
Yes.
I suppose the caveat to that is, certainly in this county, we have so little species-rich grassland that you wouldn't want to jeopardise the health of that for doing that.
Yes, so. Yeah, and that is why nature reserves are so important. It's not just about, we can't just leave nature to exist on the edge of car parks, and where we can see it. And it's amazing to see it here, and it is wonderful. But, nature reserves are also important, to...
But they rely on each other to be as rich as possible. If you think about Trimmingham Meadows Nature Reserve, the arable land there is far more rich because of Trimmingham Meadows being next to it, proximity to populations of other stuff. And the same could be said for Trimmingham Meadows. If there wasn't, arable land next to it, we wouldn't have yellowhammers nesting there, or skylarks feeding in there, brown hares visiting. So they're, individually they're important. Well, Trimmingham Meadows Nature Reserve is, has a greater range of habitats and species than the arable land adjacent, but individually they have a certain value, but together they're even more valuable. And that's that the interface between different habitats is really key.
Yeah. Ecologically
speaking, it's
yeah. And and also creating these corridors and these chances for wildlife to travel between and through and amongst our landscape.
Definitely.
Rather than cutting it off. That's why things like car parks and like Madingley, which has, as you say, sort of slightly been managed with nature in mind to a certain extent, but it's an important corridor. It's an important sort of little resource, and that's the idea of a living landscape, isn't it, for the Wildlife Trust? That it's not just about the nature reserves that we manage, that are these repositories of the species rich kind of pockets, but actually those species, as they need space to move out and among and through everything that we do, and that includes people's gardens.
Yeah, definitely.
It includes car parks, it includes school grounds, hedgerows.
Nature should be woven back into the landscape.
I just want to add to that thought, though, is that it's important for wildlife, but it's also really important for us.
Oh, definitely.
Because we are wildlife.
Oh, definitely.
And so it's very important to us too. That's a damselfly.
It is a damselfly. It's a common blue damselfly. And I just spotted an ivy bee, first of the year.
That's a comma, am I right?
It is, correct. A lovely one as well, nice and bright.
Fantastic.
Very nice. So we've got these sort of tree areas, and this one, well, quite a few of them around here have just got ivy growing throughout them, haven't they?
Yes, and lots of oak saplings. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Or one oak
that's
sapling
been cut.
that's sort of been.
Yeah, and it's sort of coppiced, and any branches that grow nice and low survive. So that's what's happened to it. So yeah, ivy, good habitat. You know, adding something different. Big, thick sort of leaf mould. There'll be lots of interesting things in there.
Yeah, so it holds on to all those leaves that fall and sort of protects them from the wind.
Yeah, so it's really nice and moist.
Yeah. That smells nice. I was going to say, I get a waft of that now. It's kind of like petrichor in the summer. That sort of smell of earthiness.
Very good. So yeah, a different suite of species, or maybe some similar to the ones, you know, over by the first sort of tree enclosure, which was very different, a very different habitat. Very exposed, lots of bare soil, very low growing plants, very little grass.
Quite shaded as well.
Quite shaded, yeah. And there was moss growing there, and this is really quite different. And having that variety of different habitats, you know, increases the diversity. You know, we're not talking about, you know, the grassland at Fulbourn Fen and the woodland combined together is really valuable. You know, give this place its due. Nature is trying its hardest to be as diverse as it can be, given what it's got to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little crack. The tarmac's not too happy,
That's
and there's stuff growing.
A crack in the actual face of the car park itself.
You got grasses.
And they look like mountain species, like alpine species. They're growing so close to the ground because they're obviously constantly run over by tyres.
Fed upon by mountain goats.
But they're still there. You know, the moss is, in fact, it's almost like the Japanese art of, is it kintsugi? Where they repair things visibly using gold. So when something breaks, they repair it and then they highlight the cracks in gold with gold. And this almost looks like that. There's a crack in the tarmac and it's been completely filled in by moss.
No. You look in the buildings.
Yeah, okay. So that's right, because this is a park and ride rather than just a flat car park, there are some buildings here. Wow. And on the wall, yeah. What's that then?
It's a harvestman.
A harvestman. So it's got its very fine, long legs, probably an inch and a half long at its longest, and a tiny little body, but they're spread really wide across.
It's really kind of, I don't know, it's as flat as can be, isn't
it?
It's like the bit when they're trying to do the roller skate limbo underneath the pole. It's like that.
Yeah, it is. Flattened as much as it possibly can, and it's got. From the distance, they kind of look like pincers. I guess they're palps.
Palps, yeah.
Out the front of it, sort of, amazing. And that's just right on the wall here of the bike shed, hanging out.
I think this is a micromoth caterpillar. Yeah, it's a little case-bearing moth.
Wow.
What is it? They're called bagworms, I think, those ones.
Bagworm.
Bagworm.
See that? If I saw that and I didn't know any better, which I don't, I would just think that was like a grass seed stuck to the wall.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
It's amazing. So it's feeding on the algae that's growing on here. And maybe on the lichen on here as well. You know, just here we got this all that grot.
Grot on the roof, yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of just on the wall under the eaves, such as they are, of this bike shed.
And the larvae sort of combine little bits of dried stalk from plant vegetation to make its little
Yeah, and it looks like a grass seed with its kind of spines going backwards.
Yeah. The awns, I think that's in the grass seed.
Good technical word there. I like a technical word. It's more oak saplings in the ivy.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's field maple actually.
Oh, so it is.
Yeah.
That is field maple. There's an oak sapling there. There are quite a few of them.
So it's sort of seeing how the ivy protects the seedling
from being eaten by the rabbits or deer.
Yeah. So this is, in a natural setting, that's how sort of woody plants develop. They sort of get protected by ivy or brambles, and then grow through that. Stop being eaten by ideally wild cattle and wild horses. And
this ivy's starting to flower as well. You can see.
Ooh.
There's some. It's not.
Ooh. Oh yeah. Well, not quite, but yeah. Ivy's it's valuable because it's a late flowering species and it's lots of nectar and pollen, which is really fantastic for those species which are just about to go into hibernation and build up their energy levels. And it's also, because it's a late flowering species, it's a late fruiting species as well. So really good. The pigeon droppings on your car turn purple when they start feeding on the ivy fruits.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're now approaching a fence line.
Yeah.
Which is
looks like it's
a much narrower hedge line, more close cropped, I would say, because right on the other side is the road.
Yeah. They've got the typical species that we've seen a lot of today: bristly oxtongue, self-heel. Oh, there's a song thrush.
Oh, a song thrush in there.
Just hopping across the path. That's a species that relies on the urban setting for its population, really, because in the wider countryside, population has been decimated. But in urban settings, because there's that variety of habitats. Is that badger?
Do you think that could be? I think it might be badger poo we've seen there. It's quite good evidence.
Looks like there's hair in it, isn't there?
Yeah, it does look sort of hairy poo, and slightly greasy looking, I would say. And but quite dark.
Yes, yeah, and would be. Well, it's a good setting because there are badgers in Cambridge now.
Yeah, and it's right along the side of this hedgerow. Yeah. Again, a metre from the car park road, so not, we're not very far away from a car park at all at this point. Just walking around the edge of it at the moment, and
greenfinch. There we go.
Greenfinch, did you say?
Yeah.
So yeah, greenfinch in the
scrubby bit. Oh.
In the scrubby bit at the edge.
Let's have to try a blackberry. No, not bad.
Comforting sound.
Oh, it's a bit of rope. I thought it was a snake.
No, it's just a rope.
Oh, well.
Do you think snakes would be here?
They would have done in the past, I imagine. Because of the proximity of the pond there.
Yes, there is a pond around the edge.
There's some ponds further over in the more some old houses.
Yeah, so they might pass through, grass snakes.
Yeah, and there's a brook just about 700, 800 metres that way.
Yeah.
So there would be grass snakes about.
See, and that's the thing I often find about our urban settings is we're so protected from things like brooks and streams, which have kind of either been covered over or or built around or fenced off in a way that we don't even actually know how close we are to these places. And so that's why looking for wildlife in places like a car park may be even less unlikely than you think, because you don't know how close you actually are to those other habitats.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted by a scarce arable plant species.
Aha!
Brown-leaved fluellen, Kixia, something or other. So yeah, that's quite a surprise to see. It's cool.
Just growing in the grass.
In the grass. So there's obviously been disturbance, and that's the thing, sort of, with development that goes on in and around Cambridge, or anywhere really. There is disturbed ground, disturbed soil, and that soil will be containing seeds from when no doubt that that area was arable land or had been disturbed in the past. And these arable plants, their seed longevity in the soil can be quite long. And so any disturbance is really quite interesting, because for the first couple of years, there'll be all these things going, oh, hey, finally we got a bit of sunlight, we can germinate and grow and seed. And so you get an amazing array of different plant species that will appear just for those couple of years. And after that, conditions aren't suitable for them unless there's disturbance again. and they appear. And that's the amazing thing. Well, nature is amazing, obviously, but the different strategies that different species have to occupy those niches that are created, obviously by us now predominantly, but in the past through overgrazing by herbivores, herbivores stamping over everywhere and destroying all the vegetation, or droughts, or disease, or flooding, or fire, or landslides, all these sort of things, creating those habitats, those temporary habitats, which are sort of being lost in the wider countryside now because we are so efficient at our farming, and up until fairly recently, fairly protective of our nature reserves. But actually, you need that disturbance to create that, restart that habitat, the ecosystem development again. In the past, we just did it for our own ends, and it just so happened that it fitted in with a lot of the different species that are still present on these islands. And now in conservation, we have to think sort of, not too hard, but think, okay, if we do this, then that habitat or species is going to be impacted. So, but we're doing it for that species, which is even scarcer than that one. So let's do it that way, but make sure we don't impact this other species too much. And the reason for that is because we've got such a small amount of habitat left. Doing that kind of, let's just get some pigs in and dig up all the turf, etc. We can't really do that. So we have to really make sure that we are very precious with the habitats we've got. And the key thing is make sure they're managed the best they can be. Is that a meadow brown? It's me. It is.
Meadow brown butterfly. What's that
Early
butterfly count
September.
now? That's quite a big butterfly count now.
Yeah.
For this car park, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Fantastic. Conservation isn't given the importance that it is due. There needs to be the resources to preserve the habitats and species we have and manage them properly.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to get any better if we don't do that. It's only going to get worse. There's only so much that the trusts can do. And the trusts, punch above their weight easily in terms of nature conservation in the local level, which for the majority of the people of this country is important, to see the local wildlife in their back garden. It's all right, well and good coming to the Wildlife Trust Reserve. You're seeing the Wildlife Trust wildlife, but we want everybody to see their wildlife in their parish, on their street.
In their car park.
In their car park, if they have to have a car park. What is that? That's a flower. Ooh, is that? It's a toadflax flower. Oh my goodness. So that was round-leaved fluellen. This is another arable plant, scarce arable plant, called sharp-leaved fluellen. So we've got the round-leaved over there, and this is the sharp-leaved. Sharp-leaved? Yeah, sharp-leaved fluellen.
Oh, there you go. And this
disturbed
is
ground again.
Yeah, disturbed ground on this little bank that's been built up, I think, sort of at the edge of the car park to stop people. I think it's to stop people driving straight out over the grass, actually, is what this has been created for. But yeah, there you go.
I always say this because in my job role, I do lots of talks and walks with people. And I always like to have this quote from Norman Moore, who used to work at the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology at Monk's Wood. With us working in conservation, I feel that we are privileged. I know I'm privileged. And so this gentleman said, Norman Moore, in 1987 said, "It cannot be said too often that it is as much the conservationist's job to keep common species common as it is to ensure the survival of rare species."
Here.
Which is just so important. If you think about my childhood, sparrows, starlings, swifts, cuckoos, turtle dove, everywhere. Not everywhere. Hedgehogs, frogs, toads. They were a lot more than there are now. And we dismissed them. They're just common. Like water voles, goodness me. They were everywhere. And then they were the fastest declining mammal in the UK, declined by over 90%.
And now we have to do things like reintroduce them, like we have just done in the Nen Valley.
Yes, yeah. And so dismissing a species as unimportant because it's common is really bad, because the common species feed the rarer species.
Yeah, they're like the engine, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're kind of
driving the whole thing.
Yeah.
Very true.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Iain, for this tour around a car park.
Well, there's another 5 park and ride sites in Cambridge.
And
What's
any
that?
one of them, any one of them would be a fantastic place to stop and as you say, just take 10 minutes and see what you can see just before you get in your car to drive back home, or while you're waiting for the bus, even. But no, thank you very much. It's been really fascinating and interesting.
Absolute pleasure. It's always nice to be outside and to jabber at people about how fantastic nature is.
Absolutely. And so people could hear you if you do work for our corporate team, don't you?
I do, yes. Yeah. If you want to get your business you work for involved supporting the work of the Trust, which you obviously know is vital, then do please contact our corporate partnerships manager and invite us along to tell you about the wildlife in your area and what you can do to help that wildlife, because everybody can contribute. It's that fallacy that people think they can't do much, but collectively we can do so much together, doing the right thing, and doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Thanks again to Iain and to all the obliging wildlife at Madingley Park and Ride. I hope you feel inspired and encouraged that there's so much you can do for wildlife on your own patch, whether that's a garden, a window box, a community space, or even your place of work. You can see some pictures taken on the day and more information about how you can help wildlife on our website at wildlifebcn.org/podcast. If you're not yet a member, please do consider joining. You can find out how to support our work looking after the wildlife and wild places of Beds, Cams and Northants at wildlifebcn.org/join. A huge thank you to James Williams and Jared Wentwick for the podcast music. And finally, do listen out for our next In Conservation podcast, released in early 2025, and let us know what you think by getting in touch on social media at WildlifeBCN or dropping us a line from the website. But for now, cheerio!